Hello everyone. It's nice to be closing off today's event. Sadly I wasn't able to be here the whole day. I had a crazy day at the office. I have a strong sense that I'm going to be bringing a bit of a change of flavour here. and I'm a bit of a fish in a different ocean. But I think it's interesting to talk about what have we got here. I'll just put our logo up. And put the next picture up because it's prettier. Hey, if the clicker works. Yeah, we are creative services is probably an easy way to sum it up. Yeah, we work right at the other end where we're taking your services and the technologies and the platforms, and we're looking at really interesting ways to engage with the public who are going to, use these technologies, have the interest. I was listening with interest to the last one about rich messaging. We're not necessarily inside the rich messaging space, but we are because it's a part of the sharing, part of the social posting, etc. So on the broadest level, in my department, which is experience design, it's had other names like immersive and interactive arts, etc. over the years as the technology changed. But we use nascent tech and we find interesting ways to make new forms of entertainment, storytelling, to educate. So often branded and marketing driven. But it can also be used for exhibitions, museums, etc., or any kind of communication you want to get across, because people, if they enjoy it and find it fun and engage deeper with it, they might connect with it in a better way. So our business is all about that and helping our clients achieve those ends. Is the microphone working all the time? So that just gives you a broad spectrum of some of work. Maybe you'll recognize some of it, maybe not. But obviously you can see we're covering a lot of mixed reality, covering the whole XR spectrum, a lot of work on mobile over the years. But obviously we're going to installation spaces, there's a lot of web work as well. We're interested in all forms of ways to bring our storytelling into these different ways that you can touch people and communicate. Just a quick snapshot of the kind of clients we've worked for. Like I say, we're commercially driven, so we'll partner with many brands. It's an interesting partnership we kind of have where we could be working with something like Meta, a brand, and maybe what we might say an IP. So that might be an art institution, or it might be a film IP or something. If we have enough time, I'll show you one of our latest ones with Kung Fu Panda at the end. So this is often, it's an interesting space we found ourselves in where if Google, for instance, has a new technology like the geospatial API that they launched, but they obviously want to engage the audience to get interested in it, so then we brought a music partner in the Gorillas, which I'll mention in just a moment, to make something interesting. So there's a big marketing story, but also there's something interesting to go and see and do exciting things. Some of the areas we work in, obviously, if I define it, working across sports, there's a lot of interesting data visualization for us to be done there, and fan engagement. Music, yes, we've done a lot of music videos over the years, so to find ourselves doing interesting interactive content via mobile on music is is an interesting place for us to move on to. Obviously, yeah, these mediums, gaming, etc., it's good for educating, edutainment kind of classes. We've recently found ourselves working a bit more in the wellness space. We, again, if I have some time, I can show you a quick snapshot of something for Headspace that we built on the Quest 3. Yeah, and obviously it's usually through the funnel of technology and entertainment. So, I mean, why are we interested in it as a traditional animation company originally? Like I say, my aim is mostly about the innovation, but we are born out of storytelling and telling animations. Obviously, for us, these numbers are interesting. The adoption of the devices, the amount that we see of AR usage has been compelling. It's obviously been like a 5-year journey for us, but we see the uptick in everybody having AR available and quite easily accessible. The ad revenue is very large, so it's compelling for us to move across from traditional TVCs into this area. And yeah, we also know that if we do good entertainment, we can have better retention, and that obviously hopefully increases value for our clients as well. And obviously, this is quite an interesting stat. About the level of consumer engagement is the highest leading application in XR for the moment. So that's good news for us. There's obviously industrial uses and things like that as well, but it's great to know that consumer engagement and the idea of getting people enjoying what they do, finding interesting ways to engage, hold, learn, etc. As I said already, all great reasons for us to be involved in building this content and making it valuable. So yeah, we see the advantage in nascent tech to essentially immerse our audiences more deeply and build those strong emotional connections. We believe in the idea of well-crafted and thoughtful XR content. We think it will improve the retention. There's a lot of quite glib content out there. As traditional animation storytellers, we care about the protagonist, the character, how well the story is written, and all those things. And we want to bring that to the technology. We kind of like hide the technology underneath, because when the experience is working well, you don't think about what's powering it. And that's probably the best outcome anyone can hope for. What else have I took a few notes interesting for myself to say? I think I'll sum that up and show you more work. So obviously, the value for everybody else is, we're providing great opportunities for brands to engage. We want them to have more meaningful and valuable connections. That's where we're the glue for that. So I will now show you some more projects. We'll see how far we get to in the time. One of the big ones we launched recently was Gorillas Presents. This was just last Christmas, just gone. Or was it one before? My memory fades. We launched this on Piccadilly Circus and on Times Square simultaneously. This was for Google. And this was, as I just mentioned a little earlier, it was to push out their geospatial API. Now, we'd been using visual positioning systems for a while and various other technologies. There were quite a few companies in this game, but Google have finally joined and brought theirs out. Theirs is very compelling because it's built on Street View. So once theirs came out, anywhere that has Street View was viable to place XR content onto. So that's super interesting. So part of this project was showing that by doing a simultaneous live event in Times Square and Piccadilly Circus. That kind of plays to that idea. But actually, more than an AR tech stunt, this was super interesting. Working with the management team of Gorillas, they chose to use this method as actual a music drop. They launched the single Skinny Ape via the mobile experience, which felt like turning a corner, really, in terms of the maturity of the AR space, the fact that fans had to turn up there to get the premiere showing. And there's nowhere else you could have that. Once it was out, a video was actually cut through filming on the mobiles, and that went onto YouTube, and that actually became the official music video. So that's a really interesting turnaround there in the relationship of the different devices and the approach, and that it was a viable way to deliver a piece of music entertainment. So we were very, very happy about that. The funny thing you see about how we covered over all of the billboards on Times Square, we had to, for one, apart from you're not allowed to cover up Coca-Colas. And obviously, because we weren't allowed to have other advertising in there, so there was this big plan to put faux advertising, typical guerrilla style, sort of like put amusing and ironic advertising on there. But once the digital out of home knew about it, they actually started giving us the screens. So we actually could be there at the same time. This is just a little bit of behind the scenes to just sort of show you, how we could use so that's kind of like a street view 3D map, and that we can bring that inside Unity is what we built it in, and start building the scenes out. So we could do all that remotely at first, and then obviously go out on site and fine-tune with our testing, but also simultaneously, the same performance, the same character animation, all that work and pipeline can be then bespoked and created for the Piccadilly venue as well. So even though it had the same kind of core animations running through it, we were able to carefully cater for the venue so they feel unique, they feel more immersed in the space. This is different from the kind of filter style AR overlaying the world. These characters stand on the buildings. If they walk around the corner, they occlude. You saw the strange levitating Murdoch, the green guy. He did use the kind of road map, so we have some of the map information there. That's what makes good experiences really, hyper-localizing them. There's a lot of conversations was going on with some of the brand partners lately about how we can do hyper-local content for marketing campaigns as well, so that the most pertinent businesses are where you are and serving you relevant, interesting AR content, which could lead you to local businesses, etc. So this is some interesting conversations that are coming out of this as well. Thought I'd throw in a few images here. It's just, I thought that was going to play. Oh, there still is. And that one on the left isn't running, never mind. I was just going to show you, there's other things like AR wayfinding that we did as well. I'll show you some, another project on that one in a moment, but we had a little, like a firefly that was part of the Gorilla's sort of lore, and it would help you guide the last 100 meters to find the performance. It also served other sneaky purposes, like you've got to make your content appear, but gorillas are meant to be real, so they're actually there, even though they're 30 foot tall. It would like make you look away, and then you would turn around and you would find 2D. He would wave at you. We designed it in a way that, Russell is drumming down at you, they look at you, they make eye contact, we have, the information, we know where you are positionally, we have extra cameras so we can make them gaze towards you, we can make them react to you. They're all little things, they're almost like theatre tricks as well, but they actually help make a nice connection between the audience, and it's amazing what a little lift that can do rather than sort of the more passively watching a piece of content. And obviously there's real-time production techniques used in here. Unity is traditionally from the game world, but that obviously allows us to be more reactive, to work quicker, to change the content. So there's a lot of follow-on content that went with this. We were able to do our own reaction videos to the music videos that went out there. So you put a live performer in a mocap suit, and he would pop up Murdoch, and he would talk about the conspiracy theories in his own music videos, which is a very interesting way to get on TikTok and Instagram and talk to the own content you're putting out, something animations could not do a few years ago. It's good to talk about how successful this worked. 3+ million views on the channels. This data was collected not long after we put it out. 20K downloads. I should imagine there's a lot more now. 1.7 million geospatial API requests, so we definitely know it's working. And the following video, 10.2 million, probably more views by now as well, since we collect the information, and obviously we're getting good for our clients, collecting the awards, so getting the noise and traffic that they hoped for. I want to spend the rest of the time, I'll see how much I can cram in. I packed in a lot of interesting projects that are more mobile-centric that we've done over the years, or we're trying to push and find new interesting ways to do things. So I'll see how many I can pack in before I'm thrown off the stage. This is an in-house project called the Hot Stepper. It was done right back at the time, if you remember, when we had to use AR markers. And then ARKit came out, and the slam detection came in, and you could just put AR content down wherever you wanted. So that was super exciting, and we thought, set ourselves a challenge, could we not have one of our characters wander around the streets with you in that kind of virtual, as they had talked about, the mirror world, which was the other name for the AR metaverse. Long before we were thinking about that, it was just like, wow, we'd open an LA office, and it was like, could this guy walk to LA? And obviously that's why he's wearing the Speedos. Not because he's trying to be offensive, but he's already ready for the beach. But anyway, So we actually learned a lot about doing this with him, and we found out how inaccurate the compass is. We found out how inaccurate the hyperlocal measuring of positioning is at the meter level, and how pixels are amplified massively to like a 30-meter radius from the satellite down to you, which is very dangerous because that might mean he's on the road and you're meant to follow him around. So we used a combination of those two technologies and SLAM, almost like he's on a bungee. So if he's not sure where you are, he sticks close. If he's sure, he goes and ventures ahead. In this way, there was a kind of a cheeky little relationship of a guiding mechanism here. It was a fun idea, but I'll show you how we actually managed to take it to something useful by the end. Quick view of how it worked. So yeah, totally daft. But it actually became this project. What we learned became this project. So we worked with SK Telecom in South Korea, and we also got Google's help for their cloud anchors, which obviously has now become part of their geospatial API. But then it was, you just put one anchor down, and then maybe you'd attach your business or your photos or something to it. So we kind of used those cloud anchors a little bit like breadcrumb trails out there in this place called Changdeokgung, which is a UNESCO heritage site. And it's a beautiful palace. And the project actually was working with a cultural institution to make the place more accessible so that you could have a tour guide experience. And you could, have a 45-minute tour, an AR infused. So you go for a real tour around the grounds, you check out where the emperor's palace used to be, where the different courts and rooms were. And we were able to, through AR, bring some of the history back to life through there. So you might meet, the king and queen. And we also brought a tour guide, like the hot stepper, but more like a temple guardian this time, who would talk to you. And every time you passed Gumcheongyo Bridge, he would tell you how old it was or tell you something about the court. So information was being given at the point where you were. So everything's contextually driven, and it brought you through to 12 different AR experiences and sort of knitted it together into one cohesive tour experience. So this is like a pilot product, if you like. The exciting thing about that is you can actually see how if we could have that kind of layer rolling around, always on, that you could overlay this on cities. And obviously we're seeing this being developed now. This was back in 2021, was it? It was finished just before we all got locked down for COVID.
Changdeokgung Palace, a UNESCO World Heritage Site in Korea, attracting around 18 million visitors each year. Over 110,000 annual visitors to the palace have physical disabilities. Given the palace is over 600 years old, the values of cultural preservation and utilization sometimes clash. As the first carrier in the world to launch a commercial 5G network, SK Telecom wanted to use 5G technology to make the world a little better. They committed to making culture more accessible by creating a first-of-its-kind augmented reality guided tour, making Changdeokgung Palace barrier-free for all to enjoy. Visitors are taken around 12 educational immersive moments by the Hechi, a mythological guardian, gaining unprecedented access to areas otherwise reserved for the non-disabled. Plus, visitors can select the accessible tour mode that includes ramps, all streamed at the highest quality ever achieved in AR for mobile. To create this experience, hyper-realistic visuals were placed accurately in the palace grounds using SKT's advanced 5G MEC technology and Google's cloud anchors. Every detail of the experience was informed by a cultural committee and filmed in beautiful high definition using 4K volumetric capture. The project received widespread media attention. Over 270 articles were published on the day of its launch. During the COVID-19 pandemic, an at-home version of the experience was also released, allowing people to access the content anywhere in the world. 247,000 people and counting have downloaded the app in just 4 months. Changdok Are Rang is paving the way for the future of cultural experiences, demonstrating the incredible potential of 5G technology, making history and culture accessible to all.
Video just told me I got the year wrong. There we go. The COVID always feels like the lost years to me. I always wonder what happened in between, and I've never been the same since. So, what do I say there? Our innovative approach to mobile technology and experience creation has allowed us to. Has it allowed us to what? Okay. There we go. So this is where I'm going to like rattle through a few projects with my last 5 minutes. Let's see how we go. Well, it depends. Maybe you don't want me to go on a little longer. Yeah, so okay, snapshot of different projects. Please feel free to talk to me afterwards if any is interesting or surprising. So yeah, directly involve users into narrative. That's what I love about projects like this. This is, I think I've accidentally started that video, never mind. This was for Shiba, yes, the cat food people, our parent company Mars. And they actually have been building that thing called the Reef Star, which actually is a method to rebuild these damaged reefs. And they actually had been at it for over 5 years, maybe nearly 10 years, and once they'd proven it worked in a place called Sulawesi off the north coast of Indonesia, they wanted obviously to tell everyone about it, that is actually regenerating. So the AR job really was to unpack that story and educate people in how this would work. There's a film that went with it, and obviously there was a cause to, through watches, every watch on YouTube would generate some money towards the charity that's attached to this. And our job as the AR company was to explain what they'd done. So what better way than, if you can't go to the reef, is bring the reef to you. So you would be like the protagonist here, you would kind of meet a little fish, he would get you to scan the room. So there's new narrative devices there, you would plant this in your room, and then because we've scanned the room, we now can actually build the reef to scale to what your room is like. The corals generatively grew, it's all very scientifically accurate, just scaled into your living space. And that's just another way to bring you closer. And then obviously we put tools inside this as well for influencers and creators to do their own edits. So you probably saw a little pause function on the other thing like that. It allows you to insert yourself, make new edits, and then push out their own social content. So therefore amplifying what we'd done and spreading it further and driving them back to the app and to the film to get even more traction. On the right, we've just got, sometimes it's not everything we do is obviously the technology part of the end, but part of our creation process. This is another one of those lockdown stories. There's a drama school students who couldn't put on their school play because they're all in lockdown. So they all had to do it remotely. We signed up to make some animated characters of their version to make an animation in their school play, and the technology at the top there is just showing you using facial recognition technology to capture their performances, their acting, and then map it back onto the animated characters. So they did do their school play, just in avatar form. Other areas, like I said, we work in sports, so we're about the fan experience, I guess, is the angle that we're coming in at. We worked with AT&T and Samsung at the Dallas Cowboys, which is the AT&T Stadium. They had just put their 5G technology in there at the time, and this was obviously a showcase of everything. Everyone was talking about what's the value of 5G? How can so putting really rich content in and trying to stream it instantaneously at point of need, rather than side-loading 5 gigabytes of app, which nobody wants to do. So this was obviously kind of proofs for that. It ran for like half the season. So on game day, they might meet a giant player outside when the gates are locked, who's like busy smashing up chant slogans and things like that, which are volumetric captures of their favorite players. At half time, we took over the pitch to play a game on it, and then obviously you could like have fan moments to take your videos and photos with them. We worked with the NBA to do interesting data visualizations, and then a really interesting recent project for Major League Baseball was actually getting your real-time ball plays on the field with only like seconds of latency. So it was some exciting use cases for that, which is just essentially secondary experiences to the live action that's happening. Yeah, here's the two bits I was just mentioning there. So that's what you might find outside. You know, he's Zeke Elliott. His famous line is "Feed me," and he does this little spoon thing at the end whenever he scores a touchdown. And then it was too good an opportunity to resist and not take over the pitch at halftime. Watch the halftime show or play some crazy game with giant robots and American football. What more could you ask for? Again, that game could, all those shots again are in handheld as well. It was playable at any seat around that stadium, so proof point for the 5G being able to handle all of that, and yeah, the ability to just sit there and everything anchoring in the VPS system that was underneath that. And then just a bit about thinking spatially. So this is what I was saying about, these aren't specific for mobile, but I think they're interesting in terms of new areas, the spatial XR space, you know, how we're all, Apple have termed it spatial computing. We've had many other names for the same thing. But obviously it's about thinking about, you know, interfaces in our world, in bringing the virtual and the real together, placing them over surfaces and finding the kind of natural ways we now move, talk and work with our fingers and things like that, and trying to merge the two. So it's certainly more through the screen than on the screen, I think I could say, about the way these kind of experiences are going now. But I think they're very interesting for bringing back into mobile, because obviously, you know, we're out and about and it provides the first opportunity to always connect. So I think it's not all about headsets. But obviously these are the two projects that happen to be on there right now. So this is Headspace. It's interesting. It uses the Quest and it's trying to teach you mindfulness.
XR is a virtual playground for your mind. A place for you and your friends, no matter how you're feeling. A world that energizes you, where you can find your focus.
We're going to use a window as a tool.
Relax and unwind.
Observing the boxes as we breathe together.
Or just hang out and play. First wave is cleared. Ready for the next one? It's a place to be kind to your mind. And find a healthier, happier headspace.
Now, if you're curious about what you're doing in a VR headset for mindfulness, interesting if the core audience for this is actually kind of like gamers and Gen Z apparently. So while they've finished their hardcore gaming and feeling like they can go and spend some time in there and then get out of there and move on. That was interesting. One of the interesting insights for the potential of that. It feels like a whole new audience demographic, because obviously Headspace is extremely successful on mobile already. So yeah, we'll see how well that one does, but fun. And then this is just a little peek at literally just pushed this out 1 or 2 weeks ago, still actually trying to get the marketing together for this one. So this is literally a recording on the Apple Vision Pro headset in the office. But just to give you a sneak peek of another mindfulness-oriented project. Definitely a marketing stunt for the Kung Fu Panda 4, but also maybe fun to see again. Yeah.
Hey there, I'm Poe the Dragon Warrior. Today I'll be guiding you with an inner peace meditation to help you let go of the stress of the day.
So I meant to stand up at this point. And it does want me to do this as well. It's watching my hands and arms, so it's obviously all gesture control, so
Breathe.
I'm meant to stand there and do
In
it.
through the nose.
And if I'm not doing this,
Out
he
through
will
the mouth.
go, "Whoa, no, 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 no."
In through the nose.
So we go through about 4 of these Tai Chi
Out through the
inspired
mouth.
sequences. And then he rates you. So that was a very, and then there's a little tree that grows in the background. The better you do there from the, I can't remember what it's called now. It's the one with the peaches on it that Poe stuffs his face with. But yeah, a very fun and alternative way to do that. I could see how this could port to some interesting other technologies as well. But there we go. That's all from me today. Take a note from Murdoch from Gorillas, which I quite liked. Let's be afraid to be the same. Let's all look for the differences in life. So thank you. Hope that was fun.
Alex, that was super cool. And Alex did say, rate me, just in case there was any confusion out there. Any questions for Alex? Paul.
Alex, my name's Paul Eccles from Aegis. Actually, on the learning and development which you showed, just interested there in terms of, the use cases there and consideration. People have mentioned about inclusivity today before, but from the perspective of special needs, autism, etc., how are you seeing this being utilised there? Because you can see potential massive benefits.
There is. I mean, it's not necessarily our focus in the company at the moment, but I mean, it's a hard one to answer. That one's a bit deeper. Absolutely, we learning through doing, and being able to present content in a way that allows you to not go through the conventional ways to do things. Like, you can have a virtual object and guide people around in different ways. You have ways to observe the way someone interacts with something and intervene in a polite way as well. These are things that we do as well that you don't realize. Like, if we've got you in an experience, and we do like to try and keep as much of the information aspect of it back to make it intuitive if we can, to go through the screen, if you like. Obviously, it's easier on a headset, but through mobile, you can always fall back on the screen. But if you find, that people aren't doing that, you can bring prompts, or we can add the hotspots around to guide you in. So we kind of a bit more smartly leverage up or down, depending what you need. So we don't do that all the time, but where there's opportunities, we've found the ability to be able to bring that as part of the UX of how we deal with that.
Perception. It's very interesting.
Very good. Any other questions? I got this one over there. I got this vision as well with the AR with people on the open top London buses when you're going around the route, and you can probably look on your mobile phone and it give you the AR experience with different landmarks and giving you information about landmarks in London. Again.
Yeah, there's so much. I didn't show it in this one, but we did a project with the UK government called Story Trails. So a lot of the tech that underpinned Hotstepper and then Changdok was used to build a platform and a tool for creators to then go and kind of build their own kind of trails. So there's stories in Blackpool, there was a story in Brixton, and they were all over the UK. And then with the app, you could go discover those stories and then go and find more about sort of say hidden histories of voices that that we're not familiar with, but that was part of a UK celebration. So it's interesting. A lot of the things that we've been doing have actually become, I say, enabling tools as well for people to create their own content. We're not just there doing the experience. We could have directed all of them, but that would have been very expensive and time-consuming. Instead, we empowered local storytellers. We actually did training with them, but we're trying to do another version where they could teach themselves and go off and then use this technology and just make it more accessible.
I use an app which is called Komoot, which is, I do a lot of walking with my dog and various trails, and it's good because you can share the different walks. But if there was some narrative on top of that from people, the things they've done maybe, and interesting sites, I could see that coming into that application as well. I think we had a question. Is it Murray?
Yes,
Right.
It's from me. I represent one of the mobile operators. I guess to your point about, compelling content, and there's and the presence of a lot of glib content around. One of the keys for me is getting that content and using it productively to sort of move things on. So I guess, what's your advice on how we as a industry get involved more in your industry? You know, what other sort of conventions we should be attending, and how do we impress on your side of the fence what this new stuff is? I mean, Tim went through a load of sort of features of the messaging app, you know, that can, I believe, act in collusion with what you do to sort of bring people on board with a lot of the things that you create content for. What would you advise we do as an industry to get closer to you guys?
Oh wow, that's a good question, isn't it? I mean, yeah, that's kind of why I guess I was dragged in here too. so we could say, because it's true. It's like I will go to other conferences, you know, the South by Southwests of this world, and you can be a little bit like talking to yourself, you know. So you get the nods and because oh yeah, you're doing that, I'm not doing that. And it's like, well, what we're trying to do is build content for the public, and we have to all work together. I mean, let's make a new conference. I think it's interesting. Yeah, I think it is more of this kind of stuff. For us, it's taking the moment to understand. I think when I get a brief, you know, we might sit in a room and try and kind of brainstorm what it is you're trying to say, what the technology is, and then you're kind of like asking yourselves, what could it be applied to? The funny thing about working in this kind of creative space is often a lot of these things that happen first time is they get called art, right? Yeah, you see a lot of tech artists, and that's often because they've come up with something funny and strange and abstract to do with it, but they haven't found the reason for it to be applied further. So that's why I purposely put the weirdy hot stepper in there, and then we actually found a natural place for it, but also the beauty of where we are, the technology kind of was advancing as well and making it more possible. Some of the things we've been thinking are much easier to do now than they were 5 years ago. Yeah, it's a tough question. Cross-pollination, like places like this are usually, I think, I've found the most fruitful. Like even I'm taking something away about the rich messaging, and like, how far could that go, and what could I launch from that could take into an experience like this as a next step. Yeah. So it's like just to be able to make that little connection and ask the what if, or you know, where the limitations are, because we might not have considered that otherwise. Like there was one, again, I probably should have put in. We did a virtual try-on of the Chelsea t-shirt before it was out with a new sponsor, but that was done via WhatsApp. So you would send your picture, and then it would get processed somewhere else, and then you could see yourself wearing it. So that was actually directly using those channels. I forgot, but now you've reminded me. So we did find a way through, and the WhatsApp was chosen in the end, just because that way we could have direct conversations and keep opening channels with each one, and avoid all the other usual problems of back-end web server this and sign up here, and just make it a bit more immediate. It was like, there's your phone number, connect to this, have a direct conversation, send the piece, and everyone's happy. So if there are any shenanigans, it's between you and that person. So that was quite an interesting way to do a bit of marketing, and all the kind of governance that we have to watch for.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how many people want to wear a Chelsea shirt after this season as well. For those that follow football, I think maybe a simple answer to that as well, Murray, is that maybe there's a brainstorming session required. I think where you've got creative teams through Alex and Nexus, and maybe bringing them towards your customers in the same
quite
room.
a sort of one as well. I've been a judge on quite a few of the design and advertising awards over the years, and I was just thinking, like, I'd say the drum, because the way the group brings you together, I think they're good connecting spaces as well. Because obviously you'll get the wide breadth of really great ad agencies and design and branding companies, and there's a little bit of think tanking sometimes goes on there as well. They sometimes ask, what ways could we engage further or answer to this brief? And obviously it's a question that goes out to the creative community. So that would be an interesting cross-pollination, because sometimes some of the judges have come from the end client, and they've been judges too, which I think is really interesting.
Great, okay. Thank you very much, Alex. That was fantastic.
Thank you.